should be some topic number 2 says, a message to my FBA brethren. This white man told a cold, hard truth. This takes us to YouTube. Hold on. Got to reshare it because StreamYard issues. So let me reshare that with you guys. It's going to take us to... All right, make sure you guys can see it. You guys should be able to see it now. Okay, so we're going to play this very short video, 1 minute video. I might play it twice just to make sure that we all get the gist of it.
Direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us.
That almost felt like a Heil Hitler was going to come out at some point there. Frank Rice in the chat said, I went to Jamaica. A Chinese woman was in line in front of me. A black female customs gal let her through and grilled me for almost an hour. And I'm of Jamaican inheritance, making me Jamaican. Yeah, that's very possible to see, not just Jamaica, but in other parts of the Caribbean as well. KW Don 7 is out there. He says 3 of the Jamaican national heroes are non-black. 3 of the Jamaican national heroes are non-black. Just out of curiosity, how many national heroes does Jamaica recognize? That's an important number as well. With that said, should the breeze topic number 2 is a message to my FBA brethren. This white man told a cold, hard truth. Let me welcome in our brother Buana this week. Buana, how are you?
Koku, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, let me say shout out to you, Koku, and brother Bakari. Y'all been doing the yeoman's job, checking in on me. I really appreciate it. So I really thought to publicly tell you and brother Bakari that y'all been holding the fort down for the Better Medicine podcast, and I really appreciate y'all brothers and all the other brothers too, who also gave me sent me my condolences. So I really appreciate that. Let me just first say that and get that out of the way. I don't know. You want me to start to speak to this prompt or not?
Well, first of all, welcome back. We're happy to hear your voice, man. So welcome back.
Yes, man. Yes, man. You know how things go when people die. I know you're still going through your thing, and that
Yeah.
could be a difficult. You have your ups and your downs, but if my mother was around, she would want me to get back on that horse and do what I need to do. So it is what it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the chat welcomes you back. Sister Cheryl says, Buana. Trigger says, welcome back, Buana. KW Don 7 says there's 7. So 3 of the 7 Jamaican national heroes are non-black. Very interesting. Okay. I'm afraid to ask what that number would be in the Bahamas, to be quite frank. With that said, man, so this message to the FBA, so this white guy in the video was having a very, very interesting and not too coded of a discussion here. It's not too, you would have to be kind of daft not to pick up what is this white boy was putting down. And the invitation at the end is a very interesting thing, because who all is allowed to who all can be invited? What other groups of folks will we have to deal with who can be invited? That's a very interesting conversation. You guys, let me know what you guys thought of that 1 minute piece there from this white guy here. Before I go to Barna, let me just check something out. Let me just see if the chat says anything interesting. Someone says, Canadian friends, you should be proud of your leader. I listened to Donnie's Wobble just before Mr. Carney, night and day, from Ireland. Another person said, that was the best speech I've ever heard. Someone says, guts, dude, guts. Hope your friends come to help you when the bully turns on you. Take care, guys. We're in this together. Let's not give it to the bully. As Churchill said, you cannot negotiate with a bully. It stands true today also. Someone says the union do the power against the powers. Someone says great leader. What a wise speech, says another. Buana, before I go to you, I see Brother Bakai says play the video again. I kind of don't like doing that, but it's okay. I'll do it. I'll play it twice because it's a short video, just a minute or so.
Be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us.
All right. Hopefully everyone got it now. KW Don said, this is the perfect example that thieves eventually fall out. Yep. With that said, I can see we have Black Steelers join us. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing great, Koku. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Thanks for coming through, man.
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Black Steel, I want to go to you. You were able to see that video just now?
I saw the whole thing, yes.
Okay. The poem says, a message to my FBA brethren. This white man told a cold hard truth. What did you take from that speech, Black Steel?
Well, I'm loath to call FBA my brethren since they're a ultra nationalist hate group, but I think that the Canadian Prime Minister is just really just articulating something that African nations have felt for since the end of colonialism, and even before that. So what he's talking about is just how the United States is weaponizing things like sanctions and tariffs as a way to get other countries to bow to what they want them to do. This is something that African nations have experienced for quite some time, South Africa, Botswana, and if all else fails, they go the route of Libya, right? Look what happened in Zimbabwe when the people of Zimbabwe decided to take back the land from those white farmers. Ronald Reagan hit them with sanctions, and that crippled their economy. So this is just something that has been happening for a long time. I think that the Canadian Prime Minister is just speaking to, because the reality is that the United States, especially with Trump as president, is just now focused on raw, naked imperialism. And I think that other countries see this. And the so-called rules-based order that existed, that was supposed to be in place to prevent another world war at the end of World War II, was always a lie. It's never been a rules-based order because the rules only benefit the powerful. All right. So there was never a situation. But Canada benefited from this so-called order. So they were willing to look the other way. Now, as always, the empire turns around and eats its own, right? We call this the imperial boomerang, or as Malcolm X like to call it, chickens coming home to roost. The violence that is used overseas to, subjugate Black and African people and Asians and Latinos in South America, that same violence and that brutality turns around and comes back to the imperial core, to the United States, to the West now. So the same strong arm tactics that were being used against Zimbabwe are now being used against allies like Canada, allies like Denmark. And now they don't know how to handle it, But it was okay when it was being done to Mugabe and Gaddafi. It's okay when it's being done to people like Maduro or Hugo Chavez or any other, president of any in Africa or Latin America or Asia they didn't like. But now these same tactics are being used against them, right? So now they want to move away from the United States and trade with China. China has better deals. China offers more for your money. They let you trade for their goods in your currency. You don't have to have U.S. dollars to trade with them. This is very disturbing to the United States because that means you're getting from under our thumb. We can't really control you. So now the age of neo-imperialism is back, especially under this president. So these people in charge, they want the United States to be a white Christian ethno state. That's what they really want. They may not say it, but that is their long-term goal, is to make America a white Christian ethno state. They want it to be Saudi Arabia, except with Christianity and white people. That's what they really, really want. That's why they're always so close to these Saudi oligarchs. They like to have the way they do. I mean, I say it, but they're just really upset. Now Canada's speaking out because this plan of attack is being done to them. I would say that the United States has given up on global domination. They're willing to, but what they do want, they want hemisphere domination. They want the Western Hemisphere, meaning all of North America, all of South America, all the nations in the Caribbean. That is the American sphere of influence. And, China has a sphere of influence. Europe has a sphere of influence. Russia has a sphere of influence, but the Western Hemisphere is just going to be America's sphere of influence. It's like they're consolidating their resources. That's what this whole thing about Maduro was about. Not only that, but it's about bringing, those nations that think they're escaping, bringing them back into the fold. So where does this leave these people, these mentally deranged people who are talking about, foundation of Black America? I already said before, they want a white ethno state, right? It's so funny. The talk was first about reparations. Now it's about survival. And no, you're not surviving this without help from your people. You may need to get the fuck up out of here. All right. There may be a point where you got to get the fuck up out of here. And I don't know. They're shifting the chairs on the deck. They're rearranging the chairs on the Titanic as the boat sinks. But that's not really to say they're not dangerous, but just be aware of that. The potential for that to happen. But I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Yeah, really well detailed there, Black Steel. With that said, Sister Cheryl in the chat says I could be wrong, but it sounds like regular white people mad at wealthy white people for using hyper integration to allow to strengthen their economies. And this guy is saying no more. Yeah, that's a part of it. But what he's calling for, that's the real important part of it. Juan, you want to speak to that?
Yes. So I'll start it slow. Shout out to you, Black Steel, for holding down the fort with Coco as well. Let me just start by saying this. What this Prime Minister is saying in Canada, Black Steel spoke to in a global way. But the reason why I brought it home in a local way is because I've heard a lot of my FBA brethren, they still my brothers, even though I disagree with them. They are cheering these ICE people on and basically saying, y'all tethers, y'all Black people, y'all get out of the country and things like that, cheering these ICE people on. And I think they believe, but once they get rid of us, we'll be able to benefit from all the things that America has to offer us. Because, due to the fact that we are being invaded, we are being stagnated from getting all the benefits from America. So if you just get rid of the tethers and just get rid of all the Black people who are undermining our society, we will have a mutual benefit in America. And this man say, you cannot live in the delusion or the illusion of mutual benefit, thinking that you're going to benefit when that benefit leads to your subordination. After they can get rid of all our tethers and throw all us out of the country, the idea is you're going to be front and center in line to be next. But the reality of that is, what Black Steel is saying is absolutely true. Donald Trump wants a white ethno state. So if you don't fit the complexion for the protection, you next. You next. After they come for us, they coming for you. This is the reason why the majority of the Supreme Court right now, they are ultra right, not white nationalists, including Clarence Thomas, by the way, including Clarence Thomas. These people say they don't want no people from no shithole countries, which is black and brown countries. We want people from European countries. You kick the black South Africans out and you invite the white South Africans to America. What do you think they're trying to do? They're trying to bolster their numbers. Because the birth rate, especially for the white male in America, is almost 0 to none. So, you know what I mean? So they trying to boost their birth rate. So the people there's this belief that after they didn't get rid of all the immigrants, all of the brown and black people, they're gonna forget about the black people because we built this country and we fought in all the wars. So we should be next in line. And I'm saying that this prime minister was correct. He said you can't live in that illusion, because if you live in that illusion, it will only lead to your subordination. This president wants to go back. He wants to go back to 1940 or 1930. He wants to make America great again. And I hear, well, the black people saying, well, when was America great? In his mind, America is great when the Negroes in his place, or really and truly, you get them into a real conversation, they didn't exist. You know, let me don't get into that. I think that what Brother Bakari was telling me a long time ago, that Brother Bakari was screaming it at the top of his lungs. And I didn't want to listen to him at the time because I believed that regardless of what the president was talking about, he was restrained by law and order. He was restrained by the Constitution. He was restrained by the rules that existed within America. So he could say something from a microphone, but because of the laws, because of the Constitution, because of all this legalese, it would restrain him from doing a lot of the things he is currently doing. But you know what? Brother Bakari was right all along. The president right now is taking the Constitution and wiping his ass with it. And he is telling ICE agents, go into people's houses now. Which is, I mean, fundamentally, you basically saying the Fourth Amendment don't even exist no more. He don't even care no more. But what I also am seeing is a restructuring in world affairs where people are trying to renavigate and renegotiate their position in the world. And I'm saying that this is a time, especially for the black man, to have his own position. Because if you don't, Dr. Amos Wilson say, if you think the white man was oppressive, wait until the Chinese man or the yellow man gets in power. That's what he said, what controls the world. This was he said this like in the 80s. So I'm saying that the black man must exert himself, because this prime minister say we under a new world order. We under a new world order. And he went to the Chinese specifically and say we need to negotiate for ourselves. All the countries of the world are basically looking at the United States and say, well, they want a country unto themselves. They want a closed society. They don't want to participate with us. So I'm saying the black man have to have his own realignment in the world and say, well, what are we going to do in this repositioning in the world? Are we going to just stand to the side and get into arguments of Corey Holcomb and Anton Daniels and these frivolous nonsensical things? Or are we going to reposition our own self in the world and exert ourselves and say, well, we matter too, and we should have a say-so in this new cake we're being reformulated? Because the truth of the matter is, unfortunately, or fortunately for some people, we are watching the implosion of an empire, a so-called first world empire. You know, we are watching the implosion of that. And I'm wondering if the black man can stand to the side and see all these things happening and just, you know, subordinate himself to the next group of people who can run the world, or he can decide to run part of the world himself. I just really wondering that, but I'll leave it, Koku.
Yes, sir. Good stuff. Good stuff, Juan. Good stuff for sure. I like how you brought that home. Hold those thoughts, because you mentioned him a few times. But Bakari has joined us. But Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm absolutely magnificent, my brother. What's going on, Bawana? What's going on, Black Steel? What's going on, everybody in the chat?
Yeah, man, right here. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, I needed to hear that a couple of times. I'm glad you played appreciate that. So I could get a gist and get an understanding. But I'm going to respond right quick to something that Bawana said when he said the president, the lunatic in office, is wiping his ass with the Constitution. What happened to the 25th Amendment? I'm telling you right now, we're going to be talking about what happened to the Second Amendment. We're going to be talking about what happened to you can have a well-organized militia to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. I want people to understand something. When they say they don't want liberals to have guns, they're talking about black people. They want to start, Stephen Miller said they need to start taking guns from liberals. They talking about us. Everything they're doing is pointing at us. And that guy from Canada, whoever the hell he is, like Bawana and Black Steel said, he's really talking about black folks during the Jim Crow. He's talking about, it was great during the Jim Crow era or during slavery because you integrated to boost the economy, but we did remain at the bottom, right? So now when somebody say this is the truth for FBA want to integrate, they want to delineate from everything black. Like this lady said she had a problem in a Jamaican restaurant, so she was proud to say she called ICE and said there was some illegal Jamaicans in there, and she went back 2 days later and they had been detained. But they have problems with all black people because they want to be white adjacent. If you listen to this guy, what they want America to do, okay, yeah, y'all should integrate. So you can be back at the bottom. Because when Bawana said that he believed that these FBA people, or whatever the hell they call themselves, they believe if they get rid of all of the black and brown people, all of the black people, all of the black immigrants, right? Because they don't ever mention the white immigrant. But if you get rid of all the black immigrants, they would have what America, they would be able to get what America had to offer them. How long has black immigrants been coming to this country? Were they coming here in the 20s? Were black immigrants coming here in the 30s and the 40s? There were times they wouldn't even let them in. And what America had to offer, you didn't have it then. We have decided to do the work of white people without even getting paid. White Christian nationalists. And you know, when you're in these Christian countries, there's going to always be a couple of bootlicking, bug dancing, teetoting house Negroes in this white Christian nation. And that's the role FBA and ADOS is taking. So that's what they want. That's what they're working toward. I find some people finding solace in what ICE is doing right now. But I asked them, I was like, if they killed a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, what do you think they'll do to us? We can stay in the house all we want. So now they're going door to door. See, everything we saying publicly we going to do, they're attacking. Don't go on the street, don't go on the street, they're going to kill. So now they just going to go door to door. You know, they just got 2 teenage African-American kids last week, picked them up. They threw the flash grenade under this woman car with her 6 kids in there, African-American. We're going to have to do something, and we're going to have to take care of ourselves. You know, I'm a believer in right to bear arms. I'm believing in getting a militia. But that's it, because our fool around to go to talking about that. But that's good. Thanks for letting me speak. I give Mike.
No problem, Brother Bakari. Trigger Happy in the chat says, I gotta admit the white nationalists did a great job creating FBA. It's a good strategy because Pan-Africanism keeps the black birth rate up. FBA makes it go lower. Is there any other last thoughts you guys have on this prompt?
I would say anybody who thinks that black Americans are going to get some sort of benefit as soon as we get the immigrants out has a complete pathological rejection of history, as Dr. Bobby E. Wright would say. This is something that is You can't be reading the room. You can't study. This is why he said menticide is the biggest threat, because you can't open up or know anything about history and think that white people are going to treat us right just as soon as they learn how to. It's a crazy statement just on its face. That means you have to ignore literally centuries. And the thing is, when immigrants were coming in, and at the end of the 19th century, they had all those immigrants coming from Ireland and Italy and Eastern Europe and so on and so forth, right? Those white immigrants came in the country, and then they were elevated over the black people who had been here since the quote unquote foundation, right? so and so black people who have been here since before the founding of the United States have always been passed over for new immigrant groups coming in, because those immigrant groups could be assimilated into whiteness. Even, and this is so funny, we talked about how, Black Americans have always fought. They fought in every war this country has fought. But yet people forget that there was this point in American history where German POWs, literally Nazi German POWs, were treated better than black soldiers who fought for this country. They made the black soldiers go into the back, and the German soldiers were able to eat, who had been captured, were able to eat in the restaurants, even though they were prisoners of war who had killed Americans. So the idea that they're going to recognize us and these immigrant groups are being put over in front of us, it's just a ridiculous statement. It really, truly is. You can't know anything about history. You got to be in complete denial. There's nothing coming for you but more subjugation. It's kind of sad at this point, which is why I do believe this whole thing is just really a psyop and cooked up by the powers that be, because you can't be this stupid. Or maybe you can, I don't know. People's stupidity always surprises me.
So Black Steel, what you're saying is, before African immigrants started coming here, these foundational people were still at the bottom. I know that's not what you're saying. Now, I agree with your point. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I think that you can't be, you probably had to fall asleep in class to not know this, or maybe you didn't bother to learn this lesson. There's never been a point where if we get rid of the Spanish speaking people or we get other people that we'll be okay. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we was on point. Go ahead.
Sister Cheryl in the chat asked a question on the screen. At this point, do y'all think that these Western nations can afford to lose all of their non-white population? Like, does that sound like it makes economic sense? Does anyone want to address that?
I don't think they can afford to lose all of their non-white population, but I believe they think they can limit how much a non-white population they have. No, they don't want to lose it all. No, they don't want to lose it all, because they want to keep some people in a certain position, but they do want to limit it. These white Christian nationalists, they really truly want to limit it, where they don't want many of us here. And that's what happened with the so-called brown people, the Latinos. Too many of them coming here for their liking, because they don't want nobody to be close to them in numbers or outnumber them. They don't want any of that. So, and that's why they can find some of us. I ain't gonna say some of us. That's why they can find some black people. Just because they black, they ain't some of us. That's my opinion. But that's why they can find a person like the leader of the FBA and the ADOS, find people like them to get people to go and scream and follow, because that's really truly what they want. Numbers limited. They want us trapped here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Amma, to ask that question is to have the notion that white supremacy, or this delusion of white supremacy, because it's a delusion, is logical and reasonable. some of these white, think about it now. The majority of the white folks in America elected a felon who was accused and convicted. Well, he was charged of rape, and I think he had rape charges on him, found civilly liable. He is a man. He's a gangster. He don't like black people. I mean, these are things are recorded. He's a PDF with Jeffrey Epstein, and knowing all of that, they still chose to elect him. And you ask them, right? They say, "Oh, he's just a strong president." You have to remove the idea of reason out of your brain, bro. You have to remove reason out of your brain. These people just want to feel. As long as you could make them feel good, you could rob their pockets. You could rip them right off. Just give them the illusion that they are the best and the brightest, and they should be in certain places of authority and power just based off of whiteness alone. So if you think of it on that level, this whole notion of whites, it has no reason to it. So for you to believe that they wouldn't do it, these people will cut off their nose to spite their faces. If the European man in America knows that he can't rule and control the world as he been doing, he may blow it up. You know what I mean? He might blow it up. He's like, well, I can't have it. No one can have it. These are the kind of notions that is being wrangling in these people's heads. The president is a supreme narcissist. You know, he's not built off of reason and logic. He ain't gonna look at things like that, and he will get rid of you. He will get rid of you. He'll cut off his nose to spite his face, just to live in a delusion of we are white ethno state and we are the best and the brightest. I want you to consider that. Don't think that you are non-replaceable or non-removable, or they can't never get rid of us because of all our gifts and talents. Ask the Jews in Germany. The Jews in Germany was some of the most educated, sophisticated group of people within Germany at the time of Hitler. And what did he try to do? He tried to get rid of all of them. He didn't consider the fact, well, these guys are helping our economy. These guys are great bankers. These guys are running our corporations and things of that nature. No. They got scapegoated, and if it wasn't for the intervening armies of Russia and the United States and other people, he would have eventually gotten rid of all of it. It doesn't matter their talents and gift and what they can provide for the economy. They'll find other people to do it. Just consider that. Just consider that. I'll leave it there, Coco.
There's a really good quote by there's a really good quote by President Lyndon B. Johnson. He says, if you could tell the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you picking his pocket. In fact, he'll empty his pockets for you. I'm paraphrasing. But for a lot of white people in America, whiteness is all they have, right? They don't mind cutting off they don't mind losing a big toe if a black person can lose a foot. They don't mind hurting themselves. And that's where the pathology comes in, because there's no reasoning with these people. Look at the economy of the United States. Is it doing better by all the deportations they're doing? As a matter of fact, you know, a lot of the people who's building the houses got kicked out of the United. Yeah, you know, people who were working on the construction sites, picking the fruit. Like the construction sites are empty, and the fruit is rotting in the fields in some places in Florida, because all the immigrants are scared to go to work. And then, you know, they're complaining about high prices. The price is going to get higher because nobody's building houses, nobody's picking food. But they don't mind, because they can feel better. They can see some poor person get kicked out of the country or get shot and killed. It's completely pathological. There's no understanding this. Only thing we can do is fight it.
With that, Sister Cheryl has joined us. How are you this week, Sister Cheryl?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hey, Buana. How are you?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, Amma. Thank you for asking, by the way. I'm
Yeah,
hanging in there.
yeah. Well, condolences to you, and I hope everything is good and you're well. But yeah, uh, oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. So yeah, I think Trigger Happy brought up a good point in the chat. He said that, like, I don't think, because I know people are like really like mad and upset with FBA, and I think they're mad for the right reasons, because yeah, FBA don't realize that they're being used. They don't realize that they're being used to further destabilize the black world. And I say that, and it sounds like I'm putting a lot of pressure on FBA, but when people look at black people, they look at black people in America first, because it's America, because America has such a strong hold, like a strong, there's such a force to be reckoned with around the world. So when people look at that, and and the first thing they see is they make it a point, like white media makes it a point to put FBA on center stage. They have no problem with it, because it just goes right along with their plans of further destabilization of the black world. And then, let me get back to what I was going to say about what Trigger Happy said. He said something about like the mulattification of, or the mulattification of, I guess they're trying to mulattify the black world. I think certain parts of South America have done that. They've adopted that. I think like me and my husband talk about this all the time, and that's definitely what they're pushing towards, is to mulattify us. That's why you see all these commercials with the crazy looking white guy and the black woman, and it's just everywhere. Like you cannot even like go anywhere without seeing it. They're going to keep doing that even with the Trump administration. In terms of, I know people are upset with FBA saying, they're next, because they're taking out all the black immigrants and they're next. But I think, and I don't think this is something that FBA should be proud of, but I think FBA is instrumental in turning and mulattifying, and they're doing it in other places too, like they're doing it in the Caribbean and they're doing it in Africa. But the difference is these places are majority black, and so even if they wanted to do that, it would be very difficult. It's very difficult to try to turn Jamaica all mulatto. Like, I mean, I'm sure they'll try, but the people who that would work with best at this point right now is the black population in America. And you see that a lot. You see that a lot on the military bases. Like that's what they're going to move towards. I think that's more what black people in general in America have to be concerned about, and not so much this ICE thing, right? That's they know who they want to get rid of already with ICE. But the other half that they're not worried about, like they're not going after certain immigrants. They're going after certain people who don't have their, right now that's tier one. They're just going after certain people who don't have their papers and this that and the third. Then because they're trying to decide, they're trying to figure out how they're going to do what South America did in certain places. So they're in the process of trying to figure that out. But are they going to just throw everybody away to ICE? I don't think so. I think they have a more cynical plan. So
That mulattoism, that mulatto creation is a very specific, since you mentioned it, is a very specific mulattoing that they're trying to do too. It's specifically white men, black women. In fact, I saw a little reel the other day. I guess it's been going around. Some white guys breaking down film, and they were saying how a black man can't ever get a white woman in the film. He said Will Smith could get a Latina, but he ain't getting no white woman in the film. I thought that was very interesting that they're pushing for this very specific mulatto creation.
That's so funny you said that, Toku, because Will Smith was with what's her name, the white woman Margot Robbie in that movie Focus. to the point to where there was rumors about him messing around behind his wife with the girl. They were so close on the set. So I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, that's true. He was in that film. I don't know how many people saw that film, as an aside note, but for the most part, you don't. Is that specific? You know, it's not a black guy breeding their woman. It's the other way around. If there's no last thoughts on this prompt here, man.
Coco, I have a quick question for Amor. You
Yeah.
know, in terms of mulattoization, I have a question for her because I know the sisters. I hear I'm on these YouTube streets sometimes, not always, but sometimes, and I hear the sisters saying that the reason why they choose to date white males is because of resources. They can take care of you better. But what I've not heard is, yes, women are attracted to power, women are attracted to resources, but do black sisters also acknowledge that the highest numbers of PDFs, PDFs is white men? So it's like your child is more apt or inclined to get messed with by these white males. By these white, do the sisters consider that as well when they trying to factor in, oh, this white guy can take care of me? Yeah, but he might mess with your daughter too. So do the sisters consider that in these kinds of mulattoization and these dialogues? Just curious question.
I I don't even think they're thinking that far. I think they're just thinking like a lot of women in this country are it's fantasy. It's like they're into this Bridgerton fantasy where black women are going to get to ride off on their white horse with their white man. I think it's more that. I don't even think they're thinking about that for real. I think like when people get into the fantasy, they let's say like a black woman actually starts dating or being with a white man, but it's not my white man. It becomes like that. It's their full fantasy. It's total delusion. So I mean, and then it's expounded on by the movies and the TV shows on Netflix. So that's all it really is. It's really just propaganda control of it's that stuff.
I don't think they really care. If I'm honest with you, I don't think they really think that deep, right? You got to remember, the white man has the greatest PR in history, man. White men went around raping, pillaging, murdering on every inhabited landmass, and yet after all that, they're still seen as the pinnacle of manhood. And it's not just black women. It's not even particularly black women because even though we talk a lot about it, the highest rate of interracial relationships in the U.S. is an Asian female and a white male. Asian women are choosing up on the white dudes, and even though in reality, Asian men make more money than white men in general. So if it was just about resources, it was just about status, Asian men would date Asian women. But it's more than just that. So even though you have a race of men who literally have committed every type of atrocity everywhere, they're still seen as, let me get me a white man. Let me get me a white dude because my life would be better because they got this, they got that. It's ridiculous when you think about it on the face of it.
Trigger Happy in the chat says they won't consider it when the image of white men is white Jesus or Prince Charming. Goes on to say if the truth was told about them, they probably won't be able to compete with other cultural groups of men. So it's a good use of imagery and propaganda. Cheryl in the chat says it's white Bridgerton fantasy. They're not even thinking about pedos. All right. With that said, man, good discussion, everyone. Thanks you guys for joining the panel. Much better with a few friends than just me sitting here talking, right? Let's go to shoot.